Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today I'll be talking to Margaret Cassell. She's based out in Sierra Leone, West Africa. We'll be talking about the challenges of living with sickle cell anemia. She was diagnosed with sickle cell at the age of 9, and ever since, did not have a major challenge at just the initial crisis. Then at the age of 18, she had more crisis. Then it started on when she started had to live on her own. Sickle cell is a very serious condition which many people still don't know about it. They take it for granted and not knowing that because it's not a visible illness, people don't understand the implication of sickle cell. Margaret is on a mission to change that language in West Africa. So, who is Margaret? Margaret is a model and activist, someone who is really outspoken and speaking about the importance of knowing your genotype in Africa. She was Miss West Africa Sierra Leone in 2018, Miss Sierra Leone in 2019, and Miss Sierra Leone in Face Africa modeling competition. She's a public speaker, has been on various media platforms from the BBC. And her mission in life is very simple: on changing the society response to sickle cell. Was raised by single parents here in Africa and stood to her core that you could achieve whatever you're determined to achieve if you put your mind to it. Let's meet Margaret. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. I have Margaret here, and Margaret is based out in Sierra Leone. And as we said in the introduction, she's going to be telling us all about sickle cell in West Africa and how she's overcome those challenges to be the person she is today. Margaret, how are you?
I'm fine, and thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. How is Sierra Leone today?
Well, Sierra Leone is warm and it's sunny. I'm fine. Good weather for me.
Yes, I know. It's always perfect because I always say to people I used to live in Nigeria, and when I was living in Nigeria, it was amazing. The weather was so fantastic. And yeah, it was just nice. And how is everything? How is the environment? How is everything else out there?
Well, with the pandemic, we have curfew in Sierra Leone now.
Yeah.
So between 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., there is a curfew. So after 10, everyone is indoors and you don't go out till 5 a.m. in the morning. But it's good because I live right by the street. So the cars, the noise, it's cool for me.
Yeah, all right. So that after that time, everything goes absolutely quiet. So you're like, oh, this is fine. I could finally get some rest.
It's refreshing.
All right.
Yes.
Now, Margaret, I'm super delighted I know that you took the time out to talk to us about your journey. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Margaret?
Well, Margaret. I am Margaret Cassell, a sickle cell advocate and a warrior. So I was diagnosed at age 9 and my genotype is SS. So I lived partly in the Gambia. That's where I was diagnosed because that was when I had my first crisis. And when I started to my earlier level, I came to Freetown, Sierra Leone, where I went to the university. I have a degree in community development and home economics. And upon graduating, I took a detour to pageantry, which was where I got the calling. I had to use my voice. I had to do something with the platform. And that's where I started advocating. So I'm a model, a one-time beauty queen. I competed in Miss West Africa 2018 and Miss Sierra Leone 2019. I represented my district, the Western Area Urban, which is Freetown. So basically, I before the pandemic, I was a co-host of the Freetown Pitch Night. I did it for a couple of months, and then I took time to write. I was given the privilege to write articles on a newspaper, and since I'm passionate about sickle cell, I decided to write articles on sickle cell, raising awareness, using my voice, going on several different medias, TV, radio, just tell people how sickle cell can. Funnily, people have little or no clue about the disease, and it's pathetic. And you ask people, do you know what sickle cell is? They're like, I've heard about that. Well, I think it has to do with your bone, or you get sick, you're sickly, but they have like no clue. So when I go on radio and TV, I tell people how people can contract the disease and how, funnily, sickle cell can be prevented, which people don't know. So I'm more focused on the preventive side because prevention is better than cure. So that's Margaret.
Wow, Margaret, you are so mad because I think what you're doing is so amazing, especially with the advocacy, talking about sickle cell. So many people just brush up that subject when you talk, because I'm a sickle cell, I'm HBSS as well. And when I tell people about sickle cell, essentially you go to certain place of the part of the world, and people still don't understand what you're talking about. They look at you and say, what is she talking about? And you're like, that you should be the ones who should know more about it as well. It's not just an illness or disease for me, it's a disease for people, especially people from West Africa. And then when you see that ignorance or that stigma of people not want to talk about it, it gives you that cringe. Come on, don't look at me this way. You should know what I'm going through. But I think what you're doing is a marvelous thing because you're going out there and you're using your voice, using your platform to do this. You said you were diagnosed at 9. How did that go? How did you, because I was diagnosed at 6 months. I'm not sure how, but I was diagnosed very early. How did you go about life to 9 years old before you were diagnosed? What happened?
So I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone, but during the war, my mom relocated to the Gambia. So I was raised by my mom. So she's a single parent, and I had to go with her. At 5, I went to the Gambia to meet my mom, but the temperature in the Gambia is quite warm, so I basically had no triggers until I fell ill. I think something triggered the illness. I hit my knee on a generator, or I was moving something heavy. I can't really remember, but I was sick at the time, and then I started complaining my bones. And so when I was taken to the hospital, that was at age 9, and then they diagnosed me with sickle cell, HBSS. But my mom was in denial. She was like, no, I bind and cast the devil. I don't have sickle cell. So how come? How do you get it? No, I don't even believe. So I don't know what's going on, but basically I had a healthy childhood because of the weather in the Gambia. I was living in a very warm environment. So my second crisis was at age 18. I relocated to Banjul, from Basset to Banjul. And then I think something triggered it. It was a temperature, a change in temperature triggers a crisis. So at 18, I got my second crisis. And then I relocated to Sierra Leone at 19, and I went to the university. And then I started having yearly crises. And I guess I had no idea what triggered the crisis because I had little knowledge about my condition. I just knew I was diagnosed with sickle cell, so I just kept going with the flow. The only thing I knew was don't bathe with cold water. So, and I took my routine drugs, folic acid and Bico daily. Sometimes I dodged, but that was the only thing I knew when I went to college. But when I went to college, I started getting yearly crises, like once a year, twice a year, before exams, in the middle of exams. I missed so many exams in the university, and then I didn't really know what was triggering all this until I graduated and I decided to research about my condition. That was when I found out that, oh wow, I was exposed to so many triggers in the university. I mean, I didn't know dehydration was a trigger. I didn't know stress was a trigger. As a matter of fact, I believe stress was the key thing that I was getting most of my crises. I was stressed most of the time, especially during exams. So, and I missed so many exams. Some of the lecturers thought, oh, I was having panic attacks, or maybe I just didn't want to write exams. I was accused of falling ill. Who wants to fall ill? Like, it's not a good thing. And in my situation, whenever I was ill because I was on campus, I had to be referred to the city. That would take me like 3 hours journey, and it was dreadful. I had so many bad experiences in college, and I'm
Yeah.
happy and lucky I graduated with my batch because I was given the second chance to rewrite my exams whenever I returned to campus. So basically, yeah, I was diagnosed in the Gambia. When I came back to Sierra Leone, I did another test through the Sierra Leone Sickle Cell Society. That was 2013. And then I confirmed that, yes, I had SS. So that's it.
You said you had the first crisis at 9 and the next crisis at 18, and you think, and then it went on, you started having it more regularly once you turned 18. Do you think, because you said you probably because you went to university and it was much colder, do you think you didn't have much crisis because you were at home? Or where did you live when you went to university? Did you have to go out and live at halls of residence, or were you living with your mother?
Well, in the university, I stayed on campus, and the temperature was really cold. Yeah, you had so much cold, like too many trees. I was exposed to malaria, to all the triggers, and dehydration I didn't know could trigger my crisis. I believe I was triggered to some extent, and sometimes my eyes were yellow, and people would tell me your eyes are yellow. That was also a sign that it's on the way. You need to get this treated. And malaria was something I had like on a regular basis. I was always having malaria, and I was anemic most of the time. So that's it. On campus, it was cold and it was stressful. I had to think about exams. I had to think, am I going to get through this lecture? Am I going to miss? Like, I missed so many. I had to catch up. By the time I returned to college, my peers will be in the second semester, and I had to rewrite my exams from the first semester. So I was always behind. I had to do double, like everything was just so overwhelming for me. And I believe that triggered a lot of crisis.
Wow. Yeah, no, I agree because I think when you are in a new environment where you are also now responsible for yourself as well, it your body's getting used to the whole, oh my goodness, I've been relaxing, everything has been done for me, but now you had to protect yourself. How did you move on from being this girl who was always sick to all of a sudden not only being non, managing your sickle cell better, but also going into various pageants? Well, how did you move from that? What was your trick and to get this done?
So when I graduated, I decided to stay home and research more about my condition. Then I found out why I had so many crises in college, which I could have prevented if only I knew. So I started managing my condition better. I started the frequency of my crisis reduced like really drastically. And so I knew what triggered my crisis. I knew how to prevent it to some extent. Sometimes it's inevitable, it comes, but to some extent I could able to manage it. And I was like, okay, let me just do something I'm passionate about. And that was when I took a detour into pageantry. And I had a platform, I had to use my voice. And this is like, since I'm passionate about this and I believe there's little or no awareness, I can be the best person to talk on this condition, and people will actually listen because I'm going through it. Like, I don't have to lie. I will tell you what I've been through, and how I overcome to where I am, the challenges I've faced, and how we can have a better generation without sickle cell if only we prevent it. And that's why I campaign for people to know their genotype. That's my message. I try to tell people, know your genotype, know your genotype. So for the past 2 years, I've been advocating using the platform like positively.
Wow. Were you ever nervous about doing the pageants, going on this pageant? Were you ever nervous that on the day of the competition you might not show up because you might have a sickle cell crisis?
Well, I was really very positive. So I remember my last pageant, I got a panic attack on stage. I couldn't even introduce myself. That was how nervous I was. They were like, "Oh yes, the next contestant, introduce yourself," and I was, I missed my words. That's sometimes I get panic attacks and anxiety kicks in. These little things can trigger crisis, but how well you manage it can determine whether you have a severe crisis or you just have a mild one you can deal with. So I wasn't really nervous, but I didn't have the time to take care of myself as much as I wanted to because I was up and about doing different campaigns, going on several media houses, trying to raise awareness, trying to spread the word, trying to get exposed, like so people get to know me, people get to support me, people will get to learn more about the disease. So that's it. I wasn't really nervous during the pageant. I was just so stressed a lot. But funnily, I didn't have any crisis while I was going through pageant. Until after the pageant, that was when I had a major crisis.
All the excitement, after the excitement, all the adrenaline is gone, and the body realizes that, okay, she sucked me up. Now I have to react and give her payback time. Because that happens when when I was in the corporate world as well. I will work Monday to Friday. Fridays, I'm not quite sure what will happen, and I will just get sick. And I think it's all the adrenaline. I've given my best shot. But Fridays, my body will say, oh, we don't have any more adrenaline left, so we have to make you sick. Yeah, so I could see why you got sick towards Friday, towards the end of the pageant competition. Your body was like, okay, you've used me up so much. You didn't even think about me. All you were thinking about was just winning the game. How has it been to change the tone, to change the understanding? Because I know Sierra Leone in West Africa, and there's still that stigma, and there's still that lack of understanding about sickle cell. It doesn't matter how much people try. How are you changing that narrative? I know you're using your platform, but what else are you doing to really reach out to people, reach out to households, and to let them understand that sickle cell is a serious, life-threatening genetic disorder?
So I connect with fellow warriors. So because of my platform, so a lot of people reached out through social media. So we do sensitize. We go on school visits, community outreach, and then we write bills. I personally use all my very different social media handles to write articles, try to talk on misconceptions, try to, just in my little way, change the narrative. So I do regular TV and radio shows. I write articles for publications, just anything little I can do. Before the pandemic, we started some school outreach, get some students and gather them, talk to them, but it's hard because people don't really show interest. I noticed the only people that pay attention are those that are affected in a little way. Maybe they have a relative or a spouse or maybe someone they used to know, someone that battled with it. So those are the people that really do show interest, and it saddens my heart that people don't take it as a public health concern, and it should be taken seriously because it can happen to anybody. Actually, it's because we don't determine how we're born. It's because of the parents we have, and I believe it's because of ignorance. So the more we continue to raise awareness, the more the ignorance rate drops, and then people get to know your genotype, go for counseling, take. I think two things adults should take more serious: who we marry and who we create our children with. And so when I tell people, do you know your genotype? Funnily, I asked someone a few days back. He said, yes, I know what genotype is. Every part of your system has a genotype. Your eyes have a genotype. Your mouth, your heart, your kidney. It was so funny. It shows you the level of ignorance. Like, that's it. So we
Okay.
really have to do more as people living with the condition, because people will just choose to listen to us because we are battling with it. They will take it more serious. Yeah, that's what I think.
So, Margaret, on your personal side, how are you going to do it with yourself? I believe you want to get married and you want to have kids. How are you being selective, or how are navigating that channel so you find the person who could give you kids that are non-sickle cell, or even if they're sickle cell, you understand the risk at the beginning?
So obviously, I know my genotype is SS. So whenever someone meets me and say, "I want to marry you," in a funny way, whether he's saying it out of seriousness or just trying to make fun, I'll ask him, "What's your genotype? Do you know your genotype?" And they'll be like, "No, I will go find out." I say, "Well, after you do, please tell me." So it's something I take as a priority because I know mine, and so I know I can change the future of my unborn children. That's if I live with a condition, I need to find someone who doesn't have it at all. So at least our children will carry the trait and they will be healthy. They just don't have to make the same mistake as our parents. So eventually, that's what I intend to do. So I really do take it seriously. Apart from guys that approach me, I talk to my friends, I tell them that they should know their genotype, they should take this thing seriously because eventually they might make the mistake and then they will have a child even with a condition and they will say like, I remember I had someone that do talk to me about this. I wish I'd listened. I don't want people to be in that state. I wish I had. I want people to say, I'm glad I made the effort. It will cost you nothing. You actually be saving a life if you do.
What's the treatment like? When you said you were always sick at that time, what's the treatment like? Does the government need to do more to give access to treatment, or is it just standard treatment? How do you deal with pain? And if someone asks you, how do you describe a typical sickle cell pain? Because sometimes I think reason we get stuck with this is that people don't understand the pain we have to go through. So I know I've asked you two questions. What is the treatment like, and how would you describe a typical pain of sickle cell?
Well, the treatment option is the medical practitioners really need to step it up because even we don't even have hematologists, like people that deal with blood disorders that are specialized, like to treat people with blood disorder. So when you go to the hospital, you have to start explaining. Imagine you're in pain, excruciating pain. You have to start telling them, I have sickle cell, I have this, I need pain meds, I need like it's we expect them to know more and they don't. Funnily, they are medical practitioners, but sometimes they don't even know how to treat us, how to take care of us. And you go, they'll like it needs to be treated like an emergency. And really, people in pain, we should be treated with emergency because just easily, slightly, someone with sickle cell living with having malaria might just like give up the ghost. That's how easy you. What did she have? Oh, not malaria. She had malaria and she's got. No, she's not supposed to have malaria. So people. I remember at 21, I was ill. I had a crisis on campus. I was writing to my exams, but I couldn't make it to the exam, so I had to be referred to Freetown, where I was taken to the hospital. And then I was so anemic, I had to be transfused immediately. I could feel I was going, like that's how serious it was. So they gave me like I remember 3 pints blood, and I believe my mom was praying for me because she was in the Gambia and I'm in Sierra Leone, but she has relocated. I was that anemic and I was down with malaria. I didn't know in campus like those were triggers, and I could have taken my health more serious if only I knew how to do it. That's why I want people to know now so they take responsibility for themselves. They take responsibility for their health. What's the second question again?
How was the pain?
Oh, The pain can be an excruciating, invisible pain. Sometimes when you tell people I'm in pain, they'll be like, "Are you serious? You don't look sick. You look fine." But we've learned to cope with the pain. Somehow we manage to build coping mechanism. Sometimes I can treat pain from home. I'll get hot steam, hot rubs, just anything that will keep me away from the hospital, because going to the hospital is another drama. I have to like I only go to the hospital in severe cases. Like my last crisis, I couldn't walk. I think it was acute chest syndrome. I could hardly breathe. I had to be put on the wheelchair and taken to the hospital. And then they took me to the ICU and gave me oxygen. I was placed under oxygen. It was could I couldn't breathe well. And even when I managed to breathe, it was so painful. My chest was so full. I was like, am I dying? I'm dying. Am I dying? I'm dying. That's how serious. And governments really need to step it up. Step it up. We have a Sierra Leone sickle cell society, but people do ask, are they really existing? Are they really in existence? Because they don't even know what sickle cell. People don't even know what sickle cell is. What are we doing as people living with sickle cell? What is the government? What's the medical side? What are they doing? And I wish they could do more. They really have to. And there are policies that then the government needs to put in place so that they help like and treat this as a public health emergency. It will really help a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the more the government and the more the private sector medical world do more, I think people with sickle cell will have it, they'll have it much easier. Then my final question is, you are really on a mission to really educate people. What will be your message of hope to people who are just being diagnosed with sickle cell? They've got newborn kids and they've just been diagnosed with sickle cell. What will be your message of hope to these individuals?
So I'll tell people who are just being diagnosed that they should know themselves. I mean, try to educate yourself, know your triggers, and know how to manage them. You are your best doctor. You have to take responsibility for your health. Learn about the condition, know what triggers your crisis, try to get more education and awareness, because if only I knew the things I know now, I would have prevented so many crises in college, and I wish I'd known. So people need to take responsibility for themselves and try to you want to have a fulfilling life. You have dreams and aspirations that you want to become. So you don't want to have an untimely death. No, we're here. We need to stay. We need to leave an imprint. We were born to live, so we need to live. People think sickle cell is a death sentence. No, tell them no. You're not going to die young. And there are a lot of myths. People think you die before 21, or that's if you make it to 21 or after 21. Back in the days, they tell me a lot of things. You might not even make it to 21. It's gets on our mental health, but try to keep yourself sane. Try not to let the things of the out get into you, because you'll be depressed a lot, and depression triggers a crisis. I know I've been depressed a lot, especially after my last pageant. I felt fulfilled that I could voice and send out a message, but after time, a month and two, I started getting depressed, and then I had a major crisis. So we need to take responsibility for ourselves, learn more about your health, your condition, how you can make an impact, how you need to survive. We have to survive. I mean, I want to have twins. I want to get married. There's so many things I want to do, and I want to be remembered for something when I live here. So that's my journey.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Margaret, for sharing your beautiful story. And I wish you all the best. I have kids. I'm married and I've done it all. Everything I thought never possible because I was always very, very sick as well. And I've managed to achieve that. It wasn't easy. It had lots and lots of challenges along the way. But I think, like you said, once you know yourself, know your body, you know what you really determine within yourself that you want, anything is possible. And just believe in yourself and keep shining, keep spreading the beautiful message of hope to others and yourself. And I thank you so much for this beautiful time you spent with us
Thank you for
today.
having me.
You're welcome.
It's
Thank
a
you so much.
pleasure. I really appreciate your platform, and I see you as a mentor. Like, you motivate me a lot, and I see Judy Gray Johnson. She's in her 70s. People that are living with the condition are making their mark. I know we can do this. We're a large community. We can connect easily, and we just know how to click because we know how we feel and we can relate to ourselves. So thank you for having me on the
You're
show.
welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure.